Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Dordie. Thank you for being here. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Today I am going to show you how I prepare my fibre into Rolags for spinning yarn, just like this. Rolags are little rolled up bundles of fibre that you card up with hand carders to basically just get all of your fibre if you want to blend colours together, or to get all of your fibre going in one direction and make it really nice to spin from. To make Rolags, all you'll need is a pair of hand carders. You can use dog brushes if they're big enough. I've never actually tried making Rolags with dog brushes, but if they have enough surface area, I don't see why they wouldn't work. So give them a try if that's what's accessible to you. Otherwise, I'm using the Ashford hand carders, and I'll put up the size and all of the specifications on the screen because I can't remember what size they are. But yes, these are wonderful and basically get the job done. You can do this on a bit of a larger scale if you have a blending board, but I do not have a blending board yet. That is more money, so this is what we're using. Today I'm going to be preparing some fibre for my next spin using some green merino, and I'm going to be blending it up with some silk that I have left over from this spin. And we've got a light green silk and a light pink silk. They're very metallic and they make for a very, very soft, smooth, silky yarn, obviously, because it's silk. So this is what I'm going to be blending together to show you. You'll obviously need some fibre as well. That goes without saying. I just didn't say that at the start. Any fibre works well with when you're hand carding, but it is good, I reckon, to have a base of some sort, and so you can just get some roving. I would usually use that as the base. Okay, let's begin. Okay, so what we're going to do is, with the hand carders, we're going to be loading up our fibre on one hand carder. So just put one to the side for now and grab your fibre. So I'm just going to start by placing some of my green merino onto the hand carder. So you basically just want to lie it flat somewhere. If you have like a desk or something, that'd be good, but I'm just using my lap today. You want to be placing your fibre kind of within the square or the rectangle, not really wanting to put fibre too much over and right on the edge of the prongs of these things. Otherwise, when you're carding it together, you're going to get heaps of things like all on the sides. It's just going to be neater if you try and keep it within the boundary of the rectangle. Okay, so grab one end of the fibre that you're using, and I'm just going to place it on my hand carder, place my free hand kind of on top of it, and keeping a fairly loose grip, you're just going to pull down, and it's going to pull apart with where the staple length is, and it's just going to transfer onto your hand carder like that. You have a thing called staple length, and basically if I pull from here, it's not really going to pull apart because the staple length is more over here. And so to find your staple length, you kind of just hold one end and then hold somewhere above it and just kind of experiment with how far apart your hands are before it starts to break as you pull. And you should be able to hold on to each end really, really lightly, and it should just pull apart. So that's like the length, the staple length of this fibre. So when it comes to blending colours up, you can kind of do whatever you like. Say with this one, for example, this one is like a gradient from the yellow to the pink. So on one side of the carder I did lots of yellow, and then the other side I did lots of pink. And then when I spin it, it's going to go gradually. The yarn will be yellow, 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 bit of orange, pink, pink, pink. So that's one way you could do it, or you could make more of a solid color like this. So because I'm working with green, 2 greens and a bit of pink, I kind of want them all kind of blending together. So I'm just going to do a full base of green. So I'll show that again, placing it down, using a free hand to kind of like secure it at the top, and then pull really lightly, like keep a light grip with your hand on the fiber, and it should just come off like that. Okay, so that's like a pretty good base layer. I'm going to, you don't want to fill it up too much, so I'm gonna put some silk in between it, and basically I'm just kind of like just going wherever I feel like it. I don't really have like too much of an organized way of doing this. It's just like visually. And so I'll chuck some pink in there as well. If you hold the fiber too firmly and too close to it, it will be really, really tough to pull. You want to keep that in mind as you're putting it onto your carders. Is if you hold your hands a nice distance away, which will give room for the staple length, then it should just come off really, really nicely. Because the silk is really light, I'm going to just do a few more layers of the merino on top, just so it's got something to like sandwich between the silk. The silk is like super, super light. Okay, so your loaded up carder should look something like this. So now we're going to blend them together. This is where you get your second carder. So how I like to hold my carders is the carder that has all of the fiber on it, I'll hold at the bottom underneath, and my hand will be holding from underneath as well, and just like gripping the handle like that. The one that's empty that we're going to be transferring onto, I'm going to hold the opposite way, so it's going to be face down, and your hand is going to be coming from the top of the handle. Okay, so now I'll show you how to actually blend with the carders. Okay, once you've got everything ready, this is how we're going to use our hand carders to blend. Basically, the ones that I have, they've got a curve to them, and so you want to follow that curve, and it's going to be like this kind of motion. And so we want to start by not going directly on top like this, but focusing on these fibers right at the end. We're going to start focusing on the bottom area of our empty hand carder and just brush the fibers like this. So now we've got a bit transferred. We're basically just going to repeat this and just try and, you know, be easy on the hands because it can be quite tough. But you're wanting to focus on it being like a rocking kind of motion. And the best way to do this is slowly because it's just harder if you rush it, especially when you're figuring out how to do it. So basically, you just keep doing that until the first one is empty, and then we're going to swap them around. I like to just always have the carder with the fiber in my left hand. For some reason, it's just the comfiest. And so now we're going to do another pass of that. Doing the exact same thing, focusing on the fiber at the end, and kind of doing this rocking motion to transfer the yarn. As you're doing this, you should see it start to blend together more than the last pass, and so I do this pretty visually, to be honest. I see how there's like a big clump there. That tells me that it needs a bit more carding, so I'm probably going to do like one more pass after this. But yeah, as you're going through, you should kind of be like brushing the two paddles kind of like together. So this is our second pass, and they're becoming a lot more blended, but there's still some like chunky bits in there, so I'm going to do another pass. And I think it should be pretty good to go. Okay, So that's looking very soft and silky. They're looking nice and blended to me. It's looks pretty consistent throughout the carder, and so they're now like not all together. You can't see the layers that are like sandwiched together. It's all just like one clump of fiber that have been blended. So once you're happy with it, we're going to take it off the carder and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, for this step I use 2 knitting needles. You can get these like specific wooden sticks that are for this part of Rolags, but I don't think it's necessary to buy. Knitting needles work fine, chopsticks would also work fine. So yeah, just a pair of straight knitting needles, chopsticks if you have them around, and this is going to be to transfer the fiber off the carder. So we're basically going to put one of your knitting needles or chopsticks or whatever you're using underneath the little fiber bit hanging off the end, and the second knitting needle is going to go on top, and you're going to sandwich that fiber between the needles. And we're going to drag this down until we're at the end and start rolling all the way up the carder. So this is why it's called a rolag. You're literally rolling this like pad of fiber off the carder and onto your needles. So as you're rolling it up the carder, sometimes you might need to flick a bit of fiber up if they haven't made it off the little prongs. I like to make sure that they're all smooth as it's going, and once you reach the end, as you take it off it could pop up a little bit, so I basically just kind of flatten it down so it feels nice and tight and secure, and they should look like this. And it's kind of like it looks like sushi or something. It's just rolled up onto the needles. So then you're going to take each of the needles out one by one, and you have a rolag. Too easy. Okay, this is my final tip for actually spinning from your rolags that helped me so much when someone told me this. So when you first card up your rolags, like, and then take them off, they are really like tightly bound together, and so just spinning from this, like if you just went like this, like that's so tough, and I was just finding it was breaking so much and it was really annoying to spin from. And then I found out if you just like loosen these a little bit by pulling them away from each other, so basically just spreading out your rolag just a little bit, like not too much, but like it just makes it really long. And they just break apart the fibers and they spread them out a little bit, so when you spin from this now, they're looser and easier to draft with. It just like literally immediately made it better. Pro tip. Saved my life. And then this is my current spin. I'm not using that yet because this is still going. But yeah, this is my rolag that I just keep spreading out as I go. Rolags have been my favorite thing to spin from since I started spinning. I also find it really fun because you can get really cool color combos from it, and you can play around with mixing fibers together and mixing colors together. So yeah, this is the same fiber. This is silk and merino, and it's just so nice. If I was just going from like the merino roving, it would just be like plain Jane solid color, which is fine. I also dig that, but it's been really fun to experiment with combining things together. So yeah, have fun with it, mess around with combos, enjoy yourself. Happy spinning. Thanks for watching, thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.